Hey guys, the year is at an end, and I think it is about time to talk about what were the best books I read in 2022. Hey guys, if you are new here, welcome to the Book Path. I'm Nicole, and if you are not and you've been sticking around with me, thank you so much. I truly appreciate you guys. So this is the video to talk about what were the best books I read in 2022. I know that there's a lot of these that were released already in December, but I wanted to let the year actually finish with whatever I was reading, because who knows, maybe one of the last books I read was going to be on my list. I know a lot of people are doing their top 10s. A lot of these that I read were actually part of a series, so I didn't want to do the top 10. I'm just going to give the top books that I read. And I felt like 2022 was a pretty good year for me, actually. I didn't have a whole bunch of DNFs like I've seen other booktubers have had. Doesn't mean there weren't some books that I wasn't that crazy about, but I feel like because there were a lot of the books that I read have already had really good reviews out there, I was able to have a lot more 4 and 5 stars in 2022. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. I do have my laptop nearby with the Copile spreadsheet that was developed by G over at Bookgross. It's a wonderful, wonderful tool to have. She gives it out free, no charge. If it's something you feel like you might want to use if you're wanting to track the books, I highly recommend it. It's very easy to use. It's a wonderful tool. I will leave a link to her videos giving information about the Copile. I know she just did an updated version, which is really, really, really awesome. So I will leave that down below in case you want to check it out. But I will be using that because it'll keep me on track for kind of when I read these, what I kind of rated them, and a little bit, of those things. So with that being said, it looks like kind of the first one that I really, really liked at the start of last year was The Inheritance Games. I read this in February. This is written by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. It's part of a trilogy. You have The Inheritance Games, The Hawthorne Legacy, and The Final Gambit, which is up there. I'm not doing the series for this one because for me, The Inheritance Games was amazing. The other books started to kind of go downhill for me. The last book I liked, but I didn't love it as much as I did The Inheritance Games. I still recommend the trilogy. It's really good. And I know she's going to have kind of a spin-off series coming out called The Hawthorne Brothers. So I am looking forward to reading that. But this was really great. This is about a girl named Avery who has kind of grown up in hardship. She's not very rich, but she likes to take care of those around her. And she's trying to go to college, trying to get into college. She's finishing up high school, and she goes to school only to be pulled into the principal's office where there's this guy in a suit, and she's pulled in with her sister who's older than her and kind of her caretaker right now. And she finds out that she has been named the inheritor of like the richest man alive. She inherits everything. So there's basically a rule that in order to inherit, she has to go and live in this guy's mansion for a year. And when she gets there, she meets his grandsons who are all handsome and equally charming. And their families who are a little at odds as to why they didn't get anything or as much as they thought they were going to get, and she gets it all when they know nothing about her. She knows nothing about them. So add this into the mix, and there's some clues that start happening where you start finding that there's a puzzle to why she might have inherited this. So this is like part clue, part treasure hunt, part mystery. It was really, really good. And I think I read this in like one day. I just went right through it, and then I ran out to go get the sequel to it. So I do highly recommend this. This is a YA book. Not a whole lot of romance, but there is like love triangles and flirtatious and things like that going on in here, aside from all the puzzles and everything. It was just really, really fun to read. So that was number one, and I did give this one, I believe I gave this one 5 stars. Let me check. Hard Way, and please forgive me, this is taking so long. 5 stars, yes, 5 stars. So highly recommend it, and we'll go on to the next one. So after the Inheritance Games, the next one is a series that became one of my favorite series ever, and that is, let me get them in the right order here, the Touch of Darkness series by Scarlett St. Clair. Well, it's actually the Hades and Persephone's series by Scarlett St. Clair. I cannot speak this year, apparently. This was an amazing series. I loved the way that Hades is portrayed in this. He is now like the epitome of guys. Like, he's up here and like everybody else literary is like down here somewhere, because I just love him. I love the way he treats Persephone. I love the way he looks at her. And I love the way that Scarlett St. Clair wrote about the underworld, because it's such a fascinating place compared to what older Greek myths and other portrayals of the underworld as being like this dank, cold, scary, like raging inferno of a place. She like just gave it life. And I love the way that this is kind of like a modern society, and there's still like gods in it, and you have the oracles. I think my favorite thing was the oracles, who could tell the future and the past, are now the PR people for the gods, and I thought that was just kind of funny. But you still have like the Greek gods being Greek gods and not really caring too much about the mortals whose lives are kind of getting upturned. So there is a lot of kind of rebelliousness from that. You also have Persephone, who at this point is kind of trying to hide her deity powers. She is the daughter of Demeter, and she wants to kind of live out her life as a human until she meets Hades, and she's kind of understanding why it might be important for her to acknowledge and accept herself and accept her powers, especially when she's had kind of a very bridge burning type relationship with her mother. So just the characters were written really well. The dynamic and relationship between Persephone and Hades is written really well. It's very slow burn in the first book until like 3/4 of the way in, and then it's like spice. You get to the second book, and I mean, this is like so much spice, even more spice. I mean, it's just the spice kept going up with every book. I know that there is kind of, I don't want to call it a spin-off series, but I think it's like the interim books of what's going on with Hades in between these. So I do want to read those. And I know that this is an ongoing series, so there will be a 4th book coming out on its way, which I will continue to read. But like I said, this is one of the best series, and I really liked all 3 books. So I would highly recommend these. And then I can put them back in the blank spaces on my bookshelf. Those I think I gave between like 5 and 4 stars for all the series. I know Touch of Darkness was 5 stars for me. After this, I ended up reading Lore by Alexandra Bracken, and I don't have the copy with me right now. I actually let it out to be borrowed, but it was really, really good. It took a little bit to get into, but once I did, by the end of the book, I was really kind of upset that it was only 1 book. I really wanted it to be a series. I really, really liked the main characters. I really liked the side, characters to it as well. It's about a girl named Lore, who you find out this is another modern day society where there are Greek gods, but they're kind of reincarnated, and there's like wars raging on, and you just have her where she's just wanting to live a normal life, and she gets sucked in. You can't escape the life, and it's existing kind of on the streets of New York. So it's really interesting how they're running around New York, almost like a Percy Jackson, but of much more like adult YA version of Percy Jackson. And you have her finally coming to terms where they need to, I think it's Ares, one of the main is kind of running away and power hungry, and wants Lore to be his because she controls the Medusa shield. Each family, each clan kind of has their own specific piece of armor or equipment from mythology that has the powers that kind of powers her clan. Her clan has been destroyed. She is like the sole survivor of her clan. There was a huge betrayal. So that's part of the reason why she just wants out. She doesn't want to deal with it. But like I said, she's going to get sucked back in. And it's just how she can rise to power while keeping her friends, who are mortals, safe from these reincarnated gods, safe from the armies of these reincarnated gods, and possibly end up destroying some of them in order to save herself, save her friends. It was really well done. Like I said, there is a little bit of light romance in there, not really any spice. This is a YA book, but I really would have loved it to be more because I wanted to see where these characters were going. And yeah, it was really good. So Lore by Alexandra Bracken, right up there on that list. After that is one of the series that actually surprised me the most. I got this on a whim. I had never heard about it before. I was at a discount bookstore and found it, and then I just kept finding them at the discount stores. I think I had to order like one. And that is the Summoner series by Taran Matharu. I did do a series review on this book series. I will leave a link to that down below. This was another one of my favorite series of the year. It starts out with, you have the prequel of The Outcast, then you start The Novice, The Inquisition, and Battle Mage. There are also some little side novels, and like there's a little handbook that, delves a little deeper into the world. It's considered like YA, but I think like the way that it's written it could be for older middle grade up through YA, and then even for adults, because I loved it. And what you have is this world that's really been compared to Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and Pokemon. And I will explain how those kind of fit into this series. So in the first book, The Outcast, this is kind of a prequel, and it really gives you an understanding of the world. You don't have to read this in order to read these three, but I would recommend it just because this gives you a backstory to a lot of characters who are older in this series that now are dealing with another new set of characters that are the young ones. But in this, you meet a young man who he's kind of like, I don't want to say poverty, but he is one of the lesser classes in this world. This world's kind of sort of like a medieval, almost fantasy world. There's not like high tech or anything in there, but there's magic. And magic is more reserved for the upper echelons of society, these noble families that can be just cruel. There's not a lot of nice people to them, and they use magic to kind of have their power, keep their power, subjugate the rest of the people. There's also a lot of prejudice against people who are not human. This involves the elves that are in there and the dwarfs that kind of reside alongside the humans. The humans are also at war with these kind of like goblins and orcs, and they live on another side of the world, but they've been at war for a while. There's ongoing skirmishes. And within this world, there is a school for people who possess magic to go to. Once again, it's more normally been the upper crust of society kind of going. And so the main boy, Arcturus, who he actually ends up being my favorite character throughout all. I mean, Fletcher is the main character in this one, and I really do like him too, but I really liked Arcturus. He is working at like basically a pub or something, and some of the richy little boys come that are on their way to the school, and he just wants to get out, and Arcturus goes, and he thinks he's just going to steal a horse and run away, basically. Ends up going to one of the students' horses, steals their stuff, finds some scrolls that are in there, doesn't realize they are summoning scrolls, and he summons what is called a demon. And the demons are basically these animals and creatures that exist in something known as the ether realm. And there are many, when it's your first, they're usually handed down from like parent to child for your first one. And then based on your studies and how strong you get, you can have more than one demon, or more than one different type. That's where the Pokemon part comes in, is that you catch your demons usually in the ether, but your first one is given to you through a summoning scroll, and that is how you get them. Instead of a Pokeball, you have a summoning scroll. So he summons Sakurisa, which is this wolf here, and she is awesome. And she has, like, I love the demons in this because they have such fun personalities. He has Sakurisa the wolf, and then Fletcher summons a salamander, this little like I think you can kind of see him sitting there on the shoulder right there, but he just has the cutest, funnest little personality. So anyway, since he is found to be able to have some sort of magic, he is now taken to the school, which is like Hogwarts, but it's a lot more darker. One of the things I really do wish about this series is that more time had been spent on the school, because I feel like they just went to a few classes and then it's mostly self-study for them, where I would have liked to seen more maybe of the faculty, more of the actual grounds of this school. But it was still a great series because these kids have to end up going on their own, and they somehow, in this one, they go through a tunnel and they find their way in orc territory, and there's a bunch of incidents that I'm not going to go into, because what you find out, and this is why I kind of recommend it, is what happens in here is kind of the long history that occurs, kind of what happens in here when you know, clinical mass destruction is reached. But you do have a lot of classism about, like, you know, how the upper crust of society is like, hey, we don't want to like you because you're not rich like us, you don't come from a family, you're poor. So there's that. And then you also have, not so much in this one, but in this one, they start to allow trolls and elves into the school. And there's just a lot of prejudice going on here. And the trolls, honestly, not the trolls, the dwarfs. Normally when I've read fantasy, like, the dwarfs are funny, but I don't really think anything much. I loved them in this. Their culture, their society, their humor, the nobility and honor that they possessed in their personalities was just, I loved them. So this is just, and like I said, in this one, you have Fletcher, who, similar circumstances to Arcturus, he is not somebody of a noble family, possesses magic, but you find out not all is what it seems. And honestly, the prejudice placed on him, it's like Harry Potter, and what you find where he's just, you've got the Malfoys coming after him, and you've got, like, it's a lot of like that, is there's the nobility families that are just gunning to make his life miserable, and he's just like the sweetest boy. And I just really liked it. There's obviously, like, there's also a prophecy fulfilled in here, as one of those types of tropes. But I was really surprised by this. Like I said, if you want more information, check out my video below on this series. I really loved it. I know the author actually has another series called, I think it's called the Contender series. I have 2 out of 3 of those books. I'm looking to get the 3rd one because I want to read more of his works. I really liked these books. They were like 5 and 4 stars. I know that they were one of the higher rated series. So after that, I ended up reading from the Blood and Ash series from Jennifer L. Armentrout, or JLA as she's more popularly known. And let's just say that was kind of the start of my addiction to her work and the worlds she's created. They are very spicy books, very wonderful books. I read them through my Libby app, but I will be on the lookout to get the hardback versions, because I saw that there are some people that are designing specialty covers for them, and they just are stunning and beautiful. And so at one point they will be on my shelf because I need them there. That world, it's epic. It's like fantasy. There's these kind of vampire-like beings. There's these gods of old, and you have a young girl who's being kind of groomed to be like this maiden. They call her the maiden, and she's got this scar on her face because she survived an attack by these kind of lesser vampire, almost zombie-like creatures. And so she can't like have friends, she can't go to like dances, she can't go in town. But one of her guards, this older guard, has kind of taken her under his wing, and he's trained her so she can fight and everything, and not everybody knows that. So when she can, she sneaks out and she fights against these lesser creatures. And then you have this enter of a new young guard that is kind of drawn to her. She's drawn to him. Let the romance commence, but not all is what they're seeming to be. He might not be what he seems. She might not be what she seems. And the world she knows, the faith and the religion that she knows that she's a part of, might be something completely different than she's ever known, and how that disrupts her world and starts this ongoing sequence to war, basically. And just a really good series. I don't want to give away too much because there's a lot to take in. It's a whole new world, a whole new bunch of characters, but very spicy. But there are werewolves, there are, like I said, there's vampires, there's gods, there's Atlanteans, there's all sorts of fun things. And I think I just got an eyelash in my eye. Oh, the light is changing. So I really loved that series. 5 stars. I've only read the first 2 books in that series, and I know there's 4 out now. I know there's going to be more. It is an ongoing series, but I will be very eager to play catch up with the rest, and I expect them all to be just amazing because they've been amazing that so far. But yes, the Blood and Ash series, JLA, has converted me into a junkie of hers. I'm just gonna bring this here because I feel weird to like keep going down by, let's see. Actually, I think I had a list that might be better because old school paper works. Okay, another book that I actually liked was one that I read on Libby, and this was a romantic comedy, and this was The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. And it was one of the recommendations, or one of the picks that you could pick for voting for the earlier months of Literature Club, and it just sounded really good to me. And it was like, if they made it into a movie, I would love it. But The Cheat Sheet is basically a sports rom-com, and you have these 2 best friends that have kind of grown up together. There was a little bit of distancing, and then they found each other again. They're besties. She was a dancer in high school. She got injured, stopped dancing, but now she runs a dance studio that's really kind of like on its way out. She can't afford a lot of the things there, but she wants to keep teaching these kids because these are like inner city kids, and she wants to support them. Her best friend, however, is like the top quarterback in the NFL for this like fictitious team, but like the only thing I can think of is like, think Tom Brady. He is like the GOAT of quarterbacks in this world. And he plays for this team, and he, has his string of girlfriends, and it never works out, and they all get jealous of his relationship with his best friend because she's a female and she's pretty. And what nobody knows is that, or what everybody knows except for the 2 of them, is that they both have the hots for one another. This is a dual BOV, so you do get his side, you get her side. And the best part that I loved about this is the comedy, because what happens is you have the football team, and I love the football team. These are like some big, you've seen football, big, like 6 foot something, 300 pounds, all muscle, like these huge guys. And they treat the best friend like she's like their mascot in some weird way. Like, they love her, they adore her. And so when they go out to celebrate one of the players' birthdays, they know they can't drink any alcohol because it's game season, it's like the playoffs or something for them, and they don't want to take any chances. So they say, oh, you're going to take our drinks for us, to the girl. And so she gets wasted, and she ends up in the bathroom and she starts talking to this girl, and she's completely drunk, and she's talking about how like her and the quarterback are a thing. Like she's like, oh yeah, and he loves me, and she has no idea that this person that she's just telling all this like BS to is a reporter. So lo and behold, stuff gets spoken out and it's printed out there in the world, and now they need to have a fake relationship. So there is fake dating, but yes, they both have feelings for one another, both hoping that this relationship is anything but fake. And to add to it, when he realizes that he really does want to be with her, and how does he prove to her that like this is real, he enlists the help of his football playing friends, and they gather together in his living room, and they have a whiteboard with like X's and O's, and they're planning it out like they would football plays. And the things that they talk about, like they talk about how, oh, you've got to do everything from like the movie The Notebook, because that's just what girls. So you just have these football players trying to find ways to be romantic, and it's so comical and it's so sweet and funny. And there's another scene where, because she's drunk, she's drank so much they brought her home. You would think they're gonna let her sleep. She doesn't want them to leave. She sits them down on the sofas, these football players, and she starts to give them all pedicures, and they let her. Like I said, this team is like amazing and adorable, and I love them. But they let her do pedicures, and as they start to win the games, it becomes routine, and they keep going to like nail salons to get pedicures because it is now their good luck charm. So like I said, there's so many comical, funny, sweet things in here. I think the only problem that I had with this book was it was a closed doors romance, or like a fade to black type of romance. So the spice level is relatively tame on there. And then it was kind of one of those ones where it would have been good if they just cut the book off where it ended, and then they kind of give you a few more chapters, which probably would have been more of like an epilogue that you didn't really need. You could have just stopped, but it was still, the humor in it was so good. It was so cute. It was so funny that like it ends up on my list because I really loved it. It was 5 stars. So that was one that I really liked. Another pleasant surprise. I've only read the first book in this series, but I plan to read more, and that is Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. If you've seen my review of this earlier, you will know I was not thinking alien smutty romance was not something I was thinking I would like. This starts off with a lot of trigger warnings, so be prepared for that. But the relationships in this are so sweet. I love the big blue alien guys and the way they look at relationships. They are just like big puppy dogs. That I think was the biggest part of just how they view each other. I liked the humor of when they actually are seeing each other's bodies and how the human bodies differ somewhat from the big blue alien guys' bodies, but how they still can fit together. But it was just really kind of sweet, really kind of funny. There's a lot of humor that goes in when they can't understand each other's languages and they're trying to, do things. And you just basically have a group of girls that have crash landed on a planet. And when one of them goes out to get help, she runs into Bechtel, who's kind of the leader of this alien tribe that lives on this very snowy, icy planet. And he kind of mates with her or resonates with her or something like that. And he will do anything to make her happy, protect her, even if she doesn't understand what's going on herself. And you find out that becoming somebody's mate and having that loving relationship is super important to the men of these tribes, which is just really cute and really sweet. So I know this is like a huge series. I think there's like at least 10 books in the series. So I will definitely be ongoing with that. And this is one of those series that I recognize that I started way too many series in 2022 and I got to finish some of them. So this will be one of the ones that I'm going to finish. But if you haven't, if you're thinking it's like dumb or you're like, there's no way, take a chance on it. I highly recommend it. So, keeping in with the JLA or Jennifer L. Armentrout, as I told you, I was getting addicted. I did pick up the first two books in the Shadow and Ember series. This isn't necessarily a prequel series or a spin-off series to the Blood and Ash, but it does kind of take place in that kind of same world with the Atlanteans, with the gods of old, with the humans and the vampires and everything. So it is kind of in that world. I think this series, though, just, I don't want to say prequel, because this, what happens in here, I think is supposed to happen like centuries before what happens in Blood and Ash. But you do have a young girl who is supposed to be the intended wife of the god of death, and he kind of rejects her, so she's just treated really harshly. She meets this guy, starts to fall for him, only to find out later on he is the god of death. So this is about that, as well as the fact that she believes, and she's been groomed to believe, that killing the god of death, making him fall in love with her and kill him, will solve the sort of plague that is going on in her world. And so what do you do when you start falling for the person you're supposed to kill? What do you do when you find out you might not have to kill them, and that all is not what it seems once again? Very spicy in this as well. She does write a lot of spice, but the relationship dynamics are really interesting. In this world, you have, they're not, I think they're called drakons. They're not dragons. Well, they're dragons, but they can turn into like people too. And the baby drakons or dragons are adorable in this. They just have the cutest little personalities, and I just love them. I wanted one so bad. But yes, very good. The Light and the Flame just came out, I think it was in November, and I devoured that one. And yes, like I said, 5 stars all around for this series as well. Another book series that I started, I just got the second one, and that is All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Kathleen Lynn Herman. I had seen this in a lot of other booktube videos. I really wanted to read it. It just sounded really good. This is like Hunger Games with magic, but darker. And what you basically have is you have magic in the world, and you have like strong, like there's a powerful magic that's actually really rare, and then there's more common magic. And the rare magic is being controlled by one of these reigning families in a small area in the UK. I believe it's in the UK. And it gets brought out to the attention of the world and the masses that there is this powerful magic still in the world. There's a small concentration of it, and that the families that protect this magic or control this magic, I think it's every 10 years, they get together, they choose a chosen one from their families to go to this kind of reoccurring like battlefield or something. There's like a dome that drops down on them, and they basically have to get out and kill each other until only one is standing. The one that is left standing, well, their family will control the rare magic for the next like decade. So it is multi-POV storied from the perspectives of those chosen by each of the families. So you start to see why it's so important for each of these, like, I think they're like 21 to 23 age years, why it's so important for them to be the chosen ones, to protect their family, defend their family, win the magic. And so it kind of gets you to where you don't know who to root for. And there are things that once they're locked down in there and about to undergo the battle, they start finding out, well, maybe they don't want to kill each other. Maybe they want to find a different way to break this kind of curse that's on them, to keep repeating these things, to keep having to do these battles. So it was really well done. I really, really liked it because, like I said, everybody's a villain in this. Everybody has these horrible things about them, but there are also very good things about, each of them as well. There was a little bit of a twist ending. I kind of thought it could happen. So when it did happen, I wasn't fully surprised, but it was just kind of like, wow, I wasn't expecting it to the twist to happen so soon. So I'm very interested to see how this all ends with all of our demise. So I will let you know. But like I said, this was 5 stars. This was really, really, really good. So then after that, another series. Like I said, there were a lot more series that I really, really loved versus some of the standalones. But the next series is the Dark Olympus series. I have read Neon Gods and Electric Idol. I did just get the third book, Wicked Beauty, so I will be reading that soon. But this is basically, once again, a modern retelling of Greek myths. But this one's a little bit different because nobody really has powers. You have to think of it more of Olympus as a big city like New York, and that the different gods are actually different mafia type families, and they inherit certain roles. Like, so if you belong to Aphrodite's family, Aphrodite takes the namesake of Aphrodite. That's not really her real name. She just takes on the persona of it. And her role or her job, career path in that society is to kind of be the matchmaker, and do like the contract marriages, the arranged marriages, things like that. Zeus is kind of like the overseer. He is the president or whatever of this world, if you will. And each one kind of has their own faction of what they do. So you have the one of the families is Demeter's family, and she has all these daughters that are differing characters in different myths. In the first one, you have Psyche. In the second one, you have Persephone, and they're the Demetro girls. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And they're renowned for their beauty. They're renowned for kind of being virtuous girls. A lot of guys want to, be with them. But there's much more to these girls than meets the eyes. They're very smart. They're very strong. And this is just kind of how they're trying to either get out of the city of Olympus altogether to lead normal lives, or how they want to be in charge of their own fate and their own lives rather than have their mother dictate everything for them or be under the control of the Olympians or these 12 factions, if you will. So in the first one, you have Electric Idol. This is the Persephone and Hades kind of retelling. Hades is thought to be deceased or destroyed that whole line out, because this is a line of, I think it's the main three, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades are the only titles that get handed down into the family line. The other ones kind of get voted in. And so everybody thought that the Hades line's wiped out, and they're not. He's alive. And so this is how he goes to protect Persephone when she has been betrothed against her will to Zeus. So very spicy, kind of a little bit of any enemies to lovers, forced proximity. Obviously the love triangle with, Zeus and Hades and Persephone. A little bit, I don't want to say BDSM type stuff, but there is some public displays of affection, we'll just say, in the way that they're handed out. This one, I'm sorry, I was telling you Electric Idol. Neon Gods is the one with Persephone and Hades. I am so sorry, I can totally didn't do that. Neon Gods is the Persephone and Hades retelling, and what I just said holding up this book, it's actually for this book. And so, like I said, very spicy, a little bit more darker. And then Electric Idol. Electric Idol was actually my favorite so far. This is a Cupid and Psyche retelling. Cupid and Psyche is one of my favorite myths outside of Orpheus and Eurydice. And you have, in this, you have Psyche is I don't know if she's plus size, but she's definitely a curvy girl. Thought to be the sweet one in the family, and she's actually super smart. And she, at a party, basically is walking around. She stumbles upon Eros, which is the son of Aphrodite, and he is like the famed hitman in Olympus. And she, because she's kind-hearted, she goes to help him when he's injured, and some photos get taken, and the mom finds out, and what you find out is Aphrodite and Demeter hate each other, and this is now going to play into the next generation, because Aphrodite wants her son Eros to prove his loyalty to her by killing Psyche. And when he sets up to go and kill her or try to get her out of town, because he knows she's done nothing wrong, he actually does have a heart, he starts falling in love with her. So instead of getting her out of town, he decides to get her into a fake marriage so that he can protect her that way. And of course, this makes his mommy very upset. And so there is some danger involved, forced proximity, fake dating or fake relationship trope, hot guy liking a curvy girl trope. Just really well done. This one was my favorite start to finish. Highly recommend both these series. Like I said, I got the third book, and we shall see how that goes from there. So I think that covers it. Let's see. Ice Planet Billionaires, Inheritance Games, Hades, Persephone's Allure, is Cheat Sheet, Summoner, Blood and Ash, Dark Olympus, Shadow Number. Oh, there is one more series. It was a trilogy, and it was my introduction into the Shadowhunter world of Cassandra Clare. You've probably heard me talk about these for the past few shows or few videos, and that is the Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. I loved these books. I loved them, loved them, loved them. I am now a Shadowhunter junkie as much as a JLA junkie. And this was basically where you get into this kind of Victorian world in the Infernal Devices, where there are Shadowhunters or descendants of angelic beings who kind of keep downworlders, as they call them, or supernatural beings in check. They fight against demons and kind of try to keep the balance and protect humanity. In this, you have a world, you have the character of Tessa, and she comes to England from America to be with her brother now that her parents have basically passed away. Her guardian, which was her aunt, also passed away. So she comes to be with her brother, and right away she is kidnapped by these sister witches who basically torture her, and she finds out that she is not normal. She has the ability to kind of shapeshift and take the memories of somebody when she holds an item precious to them. She, little spoiler because it happens pretty early on, she is rescued from the witches by the Shadowhunters, and she now stays at the Shadowhunter place in London, and the headquarters. And she comes to know the people who live there, knows what it is to be a Shadowhunter. She herself cannot be a Shadowhunter because she is not just of angelic descent. Obviously, there's some kind of magic to her to allow her to be a shapeshifter. But while she is at the headquarters, she meets Will and Jem, and a love triangle starts to happen, and it is oh so gut-wrenching. And I love these three characters, and I love the way their story goes. There is tension, there is romance, there is enemy slivers, but I also love the fact that she talks so much about other books in her book, which shows that I'm assuming Cassandra Clare is probably a very well-read person herself. But I loved the world she created. I loved the characters she created, the relationships, the backstories. They're just phenomenal. And I did just recently start to read The Lost Hours, which is the next kind of trilogy in chronological order to this series. And this is kind of about the children of the characters in the Infernal Devices. So I am continuing with this world. I did, if you watched my haul video, I'll link that down below, but I did end up getting the Mortal Instruments box set. So once I do finish The Lost Hours, I will be able to go into the Mortal Instruments like that and continue this wonderful series and wonderful world. So I know this video was long. Thank you for sticking with me, but these are the best books and series that got me going in 2022. Let me know if some of these were your favorites. Were there other books that you either saw me read in other videos that you liked and you thought they should have been on this list? Did you read something that you think was one of the best books you read in 2022? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. It helps my channel to grow, which is one of my goals for 2023. But other than that, thank you for spending your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Bye.